Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Simply She Podcast Live. This is episode 66, and I'm your host, Crystal Renee. And today we're going to be discussing strategies for Clubhouse lead generation. Since we're doing this thing live, there's no pause, there's no rewind, and we are unfiltered here on the Simply She Podcast. And we definitely want audience participation. And so, first things first, in order to be able to leave comments or ask questions under your name, you have to allow StreamYard access to your Facebook or to your YouTube. No worries, you can revoke it at any time after the show. But if we to be able to see who you are, you have to allow StreamYard access to be able to do that. But no worries, you can still leave comments. Just let us know who you are. And don't be shy. We would love to hear from you. We love questions and we love comments. So today we're focusing in on Clubhouse, one of the newest social media platforms. If you're not familiar, it's audio only, and people all around the world come together in rooms and they talk, network, learn, share. And it started out for just iPhone users, and then Android users were welcome onto the platform, I believe May, if I'm not mistaken. And it's been growing ever since. And just like anything else, it's really easy to get lost in a platform if you don't have a strategy. And my guest this afternoon is going to share some nuggets on how to leverage Clubhouse in your business. So Katie Brinkley is the owner and social media strategist at Next Step Social Communications, a social media agency based out of Littleton, Colorado. She has been helping small businesses, real estate agents, and entrepreneurs with their social media for over 17 years. So welcome to the show, Katie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining. So just as a little bit of background about you, tell the listeners a little bit more about how you got started in business.
Yeah, so I always feel really old. I need to figure out another way of saying how long I've been doing the social media thing because the 17 years thing, I'm always like, ay, 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 sure, But I got started with MySpace. So back
Oh,
in college, I know, right? Tom, everybody's first friend. But I started back in MySpace. I was at school. I played softball in college, and I wanted to get a career in broadcast radio. So I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. And part of the job, if you wanted to work at the college radio station, was you had to get bands to send you their music for free. Royalty free. So we had to do a lot of outreach, and part of the outreach, everyone was writing letters or like sending emails, and then we'd have to ship off the envelope. It was very time consuming. And so since I still played softball, I was like, well, I need to figure out a way to fast track this. So I just got on MySpace and started networking with a whole bunch of bands on their MySpace pages. And I was getting all this music coming in, and the station manager said to me, like, Katie, how on earth are you getting all this music sent to the station? I was like, oh, just networking on MySpace. But the thing behind it is I saw really quickly how fast relationships can happen online. I mean, and soon these bands that were sending me their music for free, they were coming onto my radio show, and I was having all these live interviews. I was getting free concert tickets, and things moved, and the relationship moved very, very fast. And so I was able to help a lot of the bands get their music off of MySpace and onto other radio stations in addition to the college radio station. And I never really stopped from there. Again, back 17 years ago, it was really just MySpace, and Facebook was only for colleges. And so as each social network continued to evolve and really kind of come out, I learned how each of these could be a benefit. I never really thought that Twitter's the end of Facebook and Instagram's the end of Twitter. It was always like, how can you leverage this social media platform for your business? And so again, it was never really a paid thing until about a decade ago. That's when a lot more businesses really started devoting a strategy to their social media. And the rest is history. That was kind of the long Cliff Notes version, but it was always kind of an on the side type of thing, just helping a coffee shop get on Facebook, and I could get some free coffee, and from there it's really evolved. I don't think any of us would have imagined the way social media would affect our daily lives, 17 years ago, the way that they do today.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely didn't expect. I was actually my school was one of the first schools on Facebook, so I was one of the original 13 schools,
Ah,
and I
see,
was.
my school wasn't on it. So I was at a Division II college, and that's why I was all in on MySpace, because I couldn't even be on Facebook. It didn't consider my school an accredited university.
Yeah, and of course, then they opened it up. So I mean, it was just like the evolution just kept going, kept going. It was cool because I was like, what is this Facebook? Like, why should we make an account? But I mean, now it's not like everybody wakes up and checks their Facebook, checks their Instagram. So it's definitely evolved, as you said. I mean, I don't think any of us would have imagined that we've had so many forms now to connect with each other, which is crazy. Which I
Yeah,
know
exactly.
definitely drives business owners mad because it's like, which platforms? One of the questions that I get most often is, what platform should I be on? And so obviously, especially if you're a solopreneur, you can't do all the platforms by yourself. Well, so
Yeah.
my advice is always, wherever your ideal clients are, that's the platform you're supposed to be on. The other ones, I mean, if you want to do it for fun, okay. But again, use your time wisely as it relates to social media. But definitely for sure, that resonates with me a whole lot. So we're talking about Clubhouse, and Clubhouse is like one of my new favorite places to be quite honest, especially as a coach. Why should we as entrepreneurs be on Clubhouse?
Oh, well, if you aren't, somebody else in your industry is. So that's not reason enough for you to be on it, then I don't know what is. But I like to think of it as like LinkedIn on steroids. Connections happen so fast on Clubhouse. It's just insane. And I mean, whether you're there for business or for networking or if you're there to learn, I mean, you can hear some people speak on Clubhouse for free that you would pay thousands of dollars to hear at an event, that you'd have to fly to see, or, like you'd have to sign up for some sort of class, like through master class or something. I mean, the people that are on this platform are amazing. And the opportunities to speak with them, you can actually raise your hand and ask them a question, is invaluable. So I think that exactly like you said, Crystal, like it's hard to pick and choose which social media platforms you should be a part of. But again, Clubhouse is one where if you're looking to network, to do business, or to learn, you need to be on it. And especially if you're in there for the business side of things. If you're not on it, then somebody else in your industry is.
That's right. Absolutely. I think I valued the most of being able to well, twofold, raise hands and ask questions to some of those people I would have to pay all that money to have access to, but also as someone who is trying to, increase my brand authority and also share my knowledge, being able to do that just with a
Well,
lot of people around the world.
and that's the thing, Crystal. Like, I think that that's what's really opened up a lot of my eyes. There's so many smart people out there, but they just haven't ever been given the microphone.
That's
And
right.
because they haven't been using the right hashtags, or they haven't, had the opportunity to speak at a virtual summit yet. So, I mean, this is where the thing about Clubhouse is, if you are an expert in your field and you have something of value to share, it can drive revenue to you so fast, all for 10 minutes of you sharing something that was valuable to somebody. They could potentially become a client or a customer. So I think that what you said is exactly true. It's a great space if you want to position yourself as an expert and speak to your authority, especially if you've kind of been struggling to get those follows and likes over on some other social media platforms.
Absolutely. So, what are some favorite rooms for you that you like to listen in on?
For me, just to listen in on, I love going to the comedy rooms. There's so many rooms. I mean, there's rooms for listening for if you want to grow for business or mindset, or share your wins, or if you want to discuss the latest trending news and you can hear like both sides of the argument. There's a lot of that type of conversation going on right now. But at night, I'll sit in bed and read, like my downtime, I'll read and listen to these comedy rooms. And there's one comedy lounge that I love, and they have these like 5 comedians that come in and talk like Simpsons characters. And so there's a Marge, there's Moe, and like it's like called Barney's Bar, or Moe's Bar, and like they just in character the whole time as the Simpsons, and it's hilarious. I mean, like the Lion King cast has been on, and they performed all of Lion King. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. There's a room for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, at night, my guilty pleasure is going in those comedy rooms and just laughing.
Absolutely. I've been in a few comedy rooms. There's silent rooms, which aren't allowed, but there are silent rooms on Clubhouse. And just like, hearing people just kind of share randomness. There's random rooms also like happening on one of those rooms is kind of interesting. When you're trying to find some place to go into. But for sure, I think there's just like you said, there's a room for everybody. I typically listen to rooms on entrepreneurship and mindset and women empowerment. Those are the rooms I frequent the most. So all around
Yeah.
it.
And I think that that's great. I mean, like, no matter what you're in the mood for, you can typically find a room on that topic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that live podcast that you can actually contribute to. I mean, it's one thing to listen to a podcast on mindset, but then like to be able to ask the person that's speaking how you can apply it to your life, that's invaluable.
Right. Absolutely. I think people like it or gravitate towards it because there's like this pressure with social media, the visual aspect, and with Clubhouse, all of this is a picture. So there's no pressure. Like I'm like in pajamas, like logging on Clubhouse, moderating rooms. I don't have to get dressed up. I just show up as I am and I start talking. I think also too, I appreciate that aspect for taking some of the vanity and the need to like look a certain way to be able to share knowledge with people. So I love that about it.
Me too. And I think that that is one of the things I love about Clubhouse is that you choose a picture and you kind of stick with it. It's not a logo. It's not like a picture of food or anything. It's you. And I mean, there's been times where I've changed out my profile picture and gone into rooms and raised my hand, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, Katie, I didn't even recognize you." And I'm like, "Well, I just changed the picture, but it's still me."
Right. People are like, your avatar is different. We didn't know it was you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you moderate rooms. So what type of rooms do you moderate?
So I professionally moderate a daily room, and I show up in that room, and that room's all on business and mindset and entrepreneurship and Instagram. And I bring people up and down and help with titles. So that's the paid side of things that I do. But I also host a number of rooms where it's just me, and I host podcasting rooms, lots of podcasting rooms. I host social media rooms. I've hosted a couple NFL rooms, so I'm still a big sports fan, even though I have moved on since radio, and but I still have an NFL podcast, and so I love hosting those sports rooms.
Awesome.
And any like Clubhouse tip rooms, because it was definitely something with all social media. I like to try and find the best strategy to get the most bang for your buck on it. It's Clubhouse, especially if you're on there for 14 hours a day, think about what your hourly rate would be for that. Was it worth it? Did you get your money's worth out of being on Clubhouse all day? And so that's where I really have been trying to figure out the best ways to maximize my time on each of these social media platforms, because like all businesses, if you want to be on Clubhouse and you want to be on Instagram, you need to still run your business, so how can you get the most bang for your buck on the hours that you're on there? So I host a lot of rooms like that too.
Awesome. Well, that actually leads to my next question, which is, what are the best ways to leverage Clubhouse for lead generation?
Yeah, so I think that again, going off of that hourly rate thing, make sure that if you want to host a room, that you prepare for it. One of the biggest things I see a lot of people doing is they're like, I'm just going to go ahead and host a room, and they click the start room button. But really, there needs to be a lot of show prep for it, just like you would for a podcast, a video cast. I come from podcasting and radio, and I still put together an outline for all of my rooms. I schedule the room and I promote it on my other social media channels. If you're new to Clubhouse and you haven't built a large following, but let's say you have a pretty strong audience over on LinkedIn, you should absolutely share this room with your LinkedIn network so that maybe some of those people will add it to their calendar and they'll come and listen or come and support you. So I'm all about trying to leverage yourself and your rooms to the audience that you've already curated. So plan your room, promote your room, and then host it with maybe 2 or 3 other people, not directly in your industry, but people that you can have a conversation around a relevant topic with. So I was hosting a regularly scheduled room about how can you use Clubhouse to grow your business. And she's an email lead generation strategist, and I was social media, and we would talk about how you could use both of our expertise for Clubhouse. And so find somebody that you can have an actual conversation with. Not everyone wants to just go and listen to a TED Talk. I think that Clubhouse was designed for conversations. So try and have a conversation and figure out what type of room you want to host. And you don't need to host an hour-long room or a 2-hour-long room. I think that a lot of people think it needs to be a full hour. Go as long as the room is feeling it. I mean, you can feel when the room's starting to die, and you can feel if it's like, hey, that things are still going good. You guys want to stick around and we can host for another 10 minutes. So if the vibe of the room has started to die down, go ahead and end it. And if you're not ready to host a room, that doesn't mean that Clubhouse is not for you if you don't want to be hosting rooms. So I think that it is a fantastic tool for lead generation. In addition to going into the comedy rooms, I help a lot of real estate agents with their social media strategy. So I go into a lot of real estate rooms and listen. And I listen to what their questions are and what some of their problems are. And then I create content for them on my other social media channels, helping them. So giving back already, okay, well, Katie already knew the answer to this. So go in there for market research. So I think that there's a number of ways that you can leverage it, whether it's by speaking or by just listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything you just said, I agree with. And I want to definitely hammer home, you should prepare for your rooms. I know you do podcasts and radio, so you have the outline, I have an outline. The same thing goes for Clubhouse. Even though they can't see you, they can feel, I think the room can feel when it kind of is really ad hoc, you kind of lose the energy in the room. And if you've never hosted, you definitely, I think a good step would be modding. Co-mod with someone, especially someone who's more experienced. That way you kind of get the feel of it. And then maybe one day that person will let you be the lead mod, kind of get your feet wet. That way when you go to host your own room, you don't necessarily have to throw yourself into the fire, right? And then, of course, you probably want to host them on a topic that you're really, really familiar with your first time, so that it's like, what can you talk about for an hour unscripted, unprompted, right? I kind of use that as a guide for folks who are just kind of getting their feet wet with Clubhouse. But if you've never listened, that would also be the first, I guess, the very first step, because there is an etiquette to it, and understanding why people say they're done speaking, and just I know a lot of people were like, why do people keep saying and I'm done speaking or I'm complete? I don't know what that means. Yeah. I'm just like, well, there are hearing impaired people that are using the app, and so we have to let them know when that person is done. And if people are transcribing, it's a lot of things that are going on that's probably a little bit more advanced, but it's just that if you go into my very first room, I was so confused. I was just like, what is going on? But then I kind of got it. When they were saying I'm done speaking, I was like, well, I guess you wouldn't know because we can't see each other. So, okay, done speaking makes sense.
Well, and also too, in addition to that, but at the same time, there's plenty, if I'm on stage speaking and holding a microphone and I go like this, the other person on stage can be like, oh, okay, all right, thank you, Katie. Because they have the visual cue of me putting my microphone down. If I just stop talking, people might be like, did she get a phone call, or are you taking a drink of water? What's happening here?
Yeah.
So the I'm done speaking thing does make a lot of sense, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But definitely prepare for your rooms. And then in terms of lead generation, I would tell people, raise your hand and go up on stage. Like, even if you're not at the point where you're comfortable with modding, raise your hand, go up on stage and speak, add to the conversation and the discussion. So even if you don't feel like you're ready yet to be like in the hot seat, so to speak, raise your hand and add to the conversation. That's what I did. I just kept doing that until I was like, yeah, I think I'm ready to mod. Someone invited me actually to mod by doing that. That was how I got an invitation. I got an invitation to mod because I raised my hand and started to speak in rooms, and just kept going. And so now, helping other folks who are trying to get their feet wet in Clubhouse, that's kind of the advice that I'm giving as well. I'm sure you have a lot of other tips, but definitely want to agree with you on everything that you said. I think it's just really, really important. The other thing, I think, as far as lead generation, I know that I do is like I actually have specific opt-ins for Clubhouse. So when people, because Clubhouse and Instagram are connected and Twitter, but I use Instagram a lot more. So funneling people to your Instagram to get them to become a part of your community off of Clubhouse. I mean, Clubhouse is starting to update and add like chat feature and all this other kind of stuff so that you can do a little bit more socializing within the app. But any thoughts around that, like how to really get people, like maybe you talked about having an email expert as a panelist, which I totally agree with too, someone who's in maybe a tangential industry to mod with you. But any thoughts around that, like getting people into your brand community from Clubhouse?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that as much as you can get them off of Clubhouse is essential, because a lot of times people will be on the app and be in your room, and then they get off of Clubhouse and they might not join for another week. But majority of people are still checking their Instagram daily. And so if you can get somebody off of Clubhouse and into your Instagram DMs or into your Instagram community, that changes everything. And especially too, so I have an opt-in for my on Clubhouse, and I say, hey, would you like this opt-in? DM me the word guide on Instagram. And when they do that, it then allows me to continue the conversation with them in an evergreen format. They can still see me show up through video, through Reels, through IGTV, through carousel posts, and they can still see the value that I can continue to give them. But two, if I did want to run ads to them in any capacity, I can do that because I can target Instagram direct message. People have connected with me in the Instagram direct message. I can then feed my ad to them. So I think that that's an incredible tool to try and get people off of Clubhouse and into your inner evergreen circle that you have over on Instagram.
Awesome. Are there any particular strategies that you tend to stick to or gravitate towards when you're on Clubhouse as it relates to generating leads and turning them into customers?
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things that a lot of people miss is just checking out who they're sitting next to. Yeah, there's a lot of great people on stage speaking, but you never know who you're sitting next to in the audience. And it could be your ideal client or customer or a great business partner for you. I met somebody that's turned into like one of my closest friends. She and I were in the audience together, and I was just tapping around on profiles. I liked what hers had to say, and I was just sent her an Instagram DM and said, hey, I'm sitting next to you in the whatever room, just wanted to say hi. I see that you do this. And she and I started, DMing, and then we did a podcast swap. And then, we continued like kind of talking to each other. She just came out to Colorado and stopped by my house in Denver before she drove up to the mountains. And it's turned into a great relationship. And it was all because we were sitting next to each other in a Clubhouse room. So, I mean, you never know who you're sitting next to. Tap into those profiles of the people that are around you and see who they are, see what they're about, and start a conversation with them. I can't stress that enough, that when you're on Clubhouse, you need to be on Clubhouse, that you should time block it into your day. That does sound a little intimidating to people, but again, think about your hourly rate. How are you going to maximize your hourly rate for Clubhouse time? And if you can maybe get a couple leads, maybe you could find somebody to moderate a room with on Clubhouse with you. Or hey, maybe it's someone that you want to do business with. I found other people that, like the email person, she's now my email person. And I found her on Clubhouse. And so you never know who you're sitting next to. Take that time when you're on Clubhouse and reach out and learn more about other people. Send those DMs and start networking, because it's a great platform to network on.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And it's so funny you say that, because I intentionally say that at the end of the room, but I think I'm going to start to say that with my room reset, because I really like that. I like that train of thought in terms of like, oh, you never know who you're sitting next to. I literally say that at the end. I was like, Clubhouse is for building relationships. I'm like, I wonder if that could be a part of the room reset now. So I'm going to add it.
It should be. It should be, because again, I think it's such a great. I mean, you could be sitting next to somebody that's your new business bestie or your next best client.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Definitely. So I'm going to be adding that to my room resets, because that was a great point. I do it at the end, but I think it's better to do it throughout to remind people. Also, too, it might also help people stay in the room a lot longer, right? If they're checking out, well, not might, it would, if they're checking out people that are sitting next to them, it's like, I wonder why, and they're looking at their profile, like, I wonder why this person's in this room, because that's my train of thought. I'm like, why are they in here? Or like, I wonder what they're getting out of the conversation. And so that, of course, sparks additional conversation. So,
and before we move along, I do want to say, like you said, there is the back chat feature in Clubhouse now.
Yes.
Which is great, but I really try to stick to using that just as a back chat for the moderators on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Any additional outreach that I'm doing in DMs is always through Instagram. It's always through Instagram. And I think that having, one, it shows that you care, because you took that extra step to get over to Instagram, and maybe you followed them, maybe you liked a couple of their posts. I think it just, it gives that extra effort. And when you are making these connections with people, I can't stress enough, I think that doing it on Instagram is a more relationship building than just sending something over on Clubhouse.
I agree. We do the same thing. When they had put the back channel on, I was like, no.
Me too.
Yeah, because we did the back channel on Instagram. So I was just like, we don't need this. I mean, I get it, but also no, there's another DM to check. I refuse. So, but I completely agree. Just keep it in Instagram. And what I'd like to do is, if people follow me in the room, I try to, I will like take a picture, so that way I can follow up with them afterwards. And I just use this in a voice note to people to make it more personal, because I do that because they just heard my voice. A little bit of psychology. So just heard my voice. So kind of continuing that thought of hearing my voice and sitting with the conversation, and, kind of thanking them for being in the room. And if they ask the question, I would of course make highlight of that, and make sure, include a nice message, welcome them to the Simply She community, and continue to try and interact with them to continue to build that relationship. So keep it on Instagram, folks. That's where most starts. Keep it on Instagram. Which that kind of actually leads me to my next point about using Clubhouse to leverage your brand recognition. What are your thoughts on that? And how have you done that?
So it's great for building your personal brand, your expertise as to what you can speak to and speak on. I think that, again, I know that there's a lot of people that are there for, like, they work for a larger business, but it doesn't mean that you don't have something smart to say, that you can't give value on a topic, even if you do work in the corporate world. It's not just for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, coaches. You can still, join the app and share and learn. And I do think that that's completely changed my personal brand is Clubhouse. I used to have on my Instagram, it used to be my business name, and now I have since changed it to my name. And again, it's the Katie Brinkley brand, but it's, if people want me to do work for them, it's under my Next Step Social, a company name. But at the same time, like, I'm the one that's out there speaking. So I think that it's great for leveraging the personal side of your brand. And it's not to say that, just shelve the company. It's just going to enhance your company, because it's like, man, the CEO of this company is so smart. I want to do business with that company,
Absolutely. One of my messages these past few weeks has been step out from behind your logo. So
Yes,
I definitely
absolutely.
think Clubhouse is a great tool to help you do that, especially if you are shy or introverted like me. And I used to hide behind my logo quite a bit for some years, actually. I mean, I have a pole and central dance studio. You would rarely, I mean, you would see me, but you wouldn't see me like you see me now. Kind of out there and share my knowledge, my expertise, my experience. So I think being able to do that is a game changer, and Clubhouse is definitely a great tool to help with that.
Yes. Yeah.
So we talked about your experience and how you're leveraging Clubhouse. Tell us what it looks like to work with you.
Yeah, so I offer a couple different services. I offer one-on-one coaching. I also offer group coaching. So during the pandemic, there was a lot of people that were given the gift of time, and so they didn't necessarily need someone to do their social media anymore, but they wanted to learn how to do it. And so that's what I teach. I have 12-week or 3-week sessions where we can dive into your entire social media strategy so you can start leveraging social media for your business. And then I also offer done for you services. So if you are like, nope, I don't have the time for that, you can pass it off to me and my team. And we develop the whole online presence and create your graphics, write your copy, do the engagement. And that's all part of our done for you services. But yeah, that's how we can work together. And like I said, I've been doing it for a while. I absolutely love what I do. And when I got laid off from what I thought was my dream job, and it really just opened up the door and the opportunity for me to actually have my true dream job. And so I love coming to work every day. It's a great opportunity.
That's so important. I think as entrepreneurs, that's always the big goal, the big dream. Not only that freedom, but just being able to do something that you love. Um, you know, every single day. So for sure.
Yes.
And of course, with entrepreneurship comes many challenges. So, what has been the most difficult obstacle you faced in your entrepreneurship journey thus far?
Ooh, mindset is definitely it. I think it's really, especially in social media, it's you see a lot of other people doing what you do, and they're so successful. And gosh, I'm doing that. How come? How come not me? And I think that, like I was alluding to earlier, like there's a lot of very smart people out there, but they've just never been given the microphone because they just weren't using the right hashtag, so they weren't showing up in these search, you know, options. And so I think that that was one of my biggest struggles was the mindset side of things. I still am my own biggest obstacle with my business, but I think that that's a common thing for entrepreneurs. Is we want our business to succeed so much that sometimes we can't. We're only seeing here. We're not seeing everything that's
Mhm.
around that's happening. The second that I put blinders on, I had to unfollow some social media accounts. That's when everything in my business changed, just because I just focused in on, what made me different, what made Next Step Social different, and how we could help our ideal client customers. And that's again when everything changed was when I put on the blinders and just focused on my own journey.
Absolutely, definitely. You just preaching to the choir because I think that the mindset thing is definitely key. I think a lot of people like it takes a long time, I would say, to make that shift, to
Yes.
really just say, I'm going to focus on what makes me unique instead of focusing on how I'm like everybody else.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that is where you really will find that that's where the magic is when you're
Yeah.
able to do that. So what new projects are you working on? Tell us, tell us, tell us.
Oh, yeah. So, I'm doing, now the world is opening up again. I'm doing a lot of done for you services for a lot of my clients, but I do have a couple different things for people that are interested in learning more about Clubhouse. I have a Clubhouse bio builder. If you want to check that out, and you can kind of figure out how to craft the perfect Clubhouse bio. That's my latest thing, and I'm going to be working on some more workshops and stuff for that too. But right now, if the freebie is Clubhouse Bio Builder, and you can get that at katiebrinkley.com/ch-guide.
Awesome. Well, go ahead and drop your social handles. Tell us how the listeners can get more of you, get more information.
Well, I'm on social media. So I'm on Clubhouse. You can find me at Katie Brinkley. On LinkedIn, I'm at Katie Brinkley. And then on Instagram, I am Katie Brinkley.
Awesome. Also wanted to point out how she's the same everywhere for that brand consistency. Just wanted to point that out. just just had to do it.
Just saying.
Yep. So guys, for more information on Katie, how to contact her and connect with her, you can click on the links in the show notes. This is for episode 66, and you can get the show notes at isimplishe.com/podcast. Again, that's isimplishe.com/podcast, and this is episode 66. Lastly, if you'd like to join a collective of women dedicated to being empowered and becoming the best version of themselves, join the She Army Facebook community, and the link to do that is also in the show notes. I want to thank Katie for coming on the show today. Just want to check in with you and see if you had any last words.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast. I love talking Clubhouse, so this is a lot of fun. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on. So, guys, I hope you found what we shared today to be helpful. And remember, you too can conquer if you slay hard every day. And take care.